Hey friends, we promised you a bonus vlog and here it is. We've heard your questions and now I'm finally getting around to asking Jack, getting him to sit here and do the whole spiel about what it's like going into Army basic training at 29 years old, debunking the myths versus reality and just his experience through it all. Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, 29 years old is not that old. I feel young. So she makes it sound like I went in at 40.
I think it's still older than the majority, the median of people that go into basic training, whether it be Army, Marine Corps, Air Force.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know, I mean, let's be real. You were older than most of those guys and girls, and girls. Girls were there too. But
I was trying to keep up with like the 18-year-old senior running backs from Alabama football teams and stuff that were there, and I was trying to alpha them and be like, I'm gonna pass you up. I never did, but it was a good incentive, good carrot in front of my face. So, but no, I appreciate all of you that have subscribed to Jenna's channel, keeping up with my well-being at basic training and my progress. Hopefully, this vlog can answer any questions you may have about it.
Well, we've already gotten some of the questions, so now we're gonna answer. I think we're gonna put like the top 5, 6 questions, and then like whatever naturally spews off of us chatting, and whatever else you want to add in.
Whatever boils to the top.
Okay, we'll start now. It's been like almost 2 months since it's been a month and a half since you left Fort Jackson. Mm-hmm. How good does it feel to be home?
It was weird at first. The biggest thing leaving boot camp was the customs and courtesies. So that means like if I have to salute someone or if I have to stand at parade rest when I'm talking to someone, there's certain things depending on rank that you have to formally do. And a lot of times they'll just be like, carry on, at ease. They'll tell you not to necessarily do that, but respectfully you have to whenever you're starting out. And I think when I left boot camp, that was the hardest thing to transition into, because they try to drill it into you at boot camp, but it's almost a hyperbole at the level that they do it. It's so that whenever you go into the real military, you're already ingrained with those things. So I passed ingrained about a week into boot camp and went into paranoid for the rest of it. So when I first got to my actual job, it was like, everyone always said, it's good to just, you're never going to be wrong if you salute, or go to parade rest when you're talking to someone. So I did that for a while, and, just depending on where you're at, it'll determine whether that's it's always the correct protocol, but whether that person wants you to do that or not. Sometimes people just want to talk to you like in a normal exchange where you're not doing one of the military formalities, and they'll be like, all right, stop that, it's weird. But so that transition was definitely tough whenever I first got to my post.
And I guess to just back it up a little bit for those who may be new to our channel, my channel, but you're on it right now, or just have kind of missed the past 10 weeks, Jack was in Army basic training, obviously for 10 weeks. That's how long it takes, 9 weeks, 4 days to graduate. And he did all this to become a West Point Hellcat. That's his job title now. That's what he's doing. And for him, it's not so much your traditional Army career. Like, again, how we mentioned from the beginning, he's 29. He had already had some work-life experience, but you specifically enlisted for this job after winning the job as a civilian. So let's just quickly chat, like, what your job is, why you auditioned, and all that.
Yeah, so before this, I was a band director, and I realized pretty quickly into my band directing career, I taught 4 years professionally, but intermittently I was also going to grad school and everything else. So it was about 7 years. I realized I didn't want to teach at public school, which I think it's becoming viral, that teaching is a job that a lot of people don't want to do. It takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of patience with not just students, but parents, like adults, which so does the Army. But I knew I wanted to make that career transition. I knew I wanted to perform and still do music but perform for a living. So I auditioned not once but 3 times for a special band position. This particular position that I won, this was the first time that I auditioned, but the West Point Hellcats, or really just the field music ensemble, it's a very what's the word, exclusive audition.
Prestigious.
Yeah, prestigious. I had to send in a video ahead of time with a lot of different things, not just me playing snare drum or bass drum, which is what I
Primarily
mostly do in this job, but I had to send in, mallet keyboard solos, and I even did a salsa multi-percussion, salsa music type thing. They just want to see the range of your talents in regards to music, in this case, in regards to percussion, drums. And I did all that, and then I got a call that I was one of the finalists, so that would mean that I went to an in-person audition, and from there I would compete with the other people. It turns out there were 6 of us, and I won the available spot out of those 6 after 2 rounds of auditioning. So they made cuts before the second round, and then they awarded, I think there were 4 of us. There were 4 of us in the second round, and I won the spot. So that being said, to those other 5 that auditioned, they were also extremely talented. It was very splitting hairs, and it's just a super competitive thing to do. So if you're considering auditioning for a special band, just understand it takes a lot of grit and a lot of when you're being told no this time, that it doesn't mean it's the last time. I obviously got told no twice. It was a gut punch the second time especially, but it was it's worth it now being on the other end of this and having this position. So definitely worth it. I kind of forgot where we were.
So going back to what I was saying, like, this isn't a traditional Army career in terms of like after normal Army basic training or any other basic training. I'm just really going to speak on our Army stuff just because it applies to us. But you would then go from basic training graduation after that to what is called an AIT, Advanced Individualized Training. Okay. So Jack did not have to do AIT. So luckily for us, he was able, right after graduating basic training at Fort Jackson, to come straight to his job, which is here at West Point. And so we are also permanently stationed here, unlike most traditional military careers where you are picking up and moving every so often. And this job is a permanent location, right? Is that what you'd call it? Permanent location at West Point. And so for his whole Army career, we will not be moving. We are going to be staying here. He did not have to do AIT. So yeah, it is a little different because I've had a lot of people ask or they've seen our reunion video, and this isn't even more so like you guys, like the YouTube subscribers, like a lot of you guys have been so sweet and so nice and nothing super negative, but like I posted it on TikTok, like our hug or whatever, and people are like, oh, he only just came back from Army basic training, like there's still so much more to go, blah blah blah. And it's like they don't really know our situation, and they like ours is just so different. So to just, I guess, like for you, knowing that you didn't have to do AIT, did that make going through basic training simpler, easier, like knowing that the light was at the end of the tunnel a little quicker?
I think it made me a little more empathetic to the other people I was with. I made a lot of friends there, some that I still send memes to, and whenever I get a PlayStation 5 that I'll request,
I call them his 18-year-old friend group.
Yeah, a lot of them were
all like high school kids.
It's funny because these are people that would have probably been my former students or the age of my former students, and they were like, I just didn't know you knew about the trends, or they didn't know that I had those jokes. But it's like I'm around high school students all the time. Like I get the humor, so it was probably cringy to them sometimes, but it was it was fun to kind of drop the teacher persona and just kind of
be you.
be me really. And but yeah, so for AIT, like I didn't have to do that, but I was kind of trying to understand what these other people were going through. So if you have anyone that's in the military or is going to military training, they'll have a basic training phase, and then they'll go into a AIT, which is, it trains them to go into whatever job they're going to have within the military. So like, you don't just go in and you're in the Army and you're just a generic soldier. You usually have an MOS, or basically your job description, which will tell you like, hey, you're going to be an engineer, or you're going to be a diesel mechanic, or you're going to drive very large trucks, or you're going to be in the band, or you're going to be in the special band, which is, in my case, what my MOS was. Mine is just one of very few outliers that doesn't have an AIT, because I report directly to my duty station. So
you kind of went in already with knowing like you're going to be here at West Point, as opposed to like a lot of these people who went to basic training still trying to figure out like that next step. So
well, and some of them, like especially like the medical, some of their AITs are like 50 something weeks, so it's very long. Some of them are in training right now, and so for them, if I can possibly put you into their shoes, they had their family day, and that was the first time they got to see their family. They had graduation, and then they had to say bye to their family, and then they're gone for another however many weeks to do their actual training. So
I am so grateful.
the basic training covers you know, your literally basic things that you need to be an Army soldier. So for me, it was land navigation, physical fitness, rifle marksmanship, drill and ceremony, basically just marching, learning how to march in time. Is there anything else? I think that was stuff like that.
I guess when you think of the movies and you think of reality versus what movies tend to glorify or tend to over embellish what basic training can be, I guess, like, how close to the movies is it?
I haven't seen every military movie. I would love to say I have, and you know, maybe that's a goal of mine. Not for Jenna. We differ in
I like the rom-coms. Jack doesn't
more
like
into like military and history. I think about the Roman Empire.
Don't get me
once a
started
day.
on that. I asked him that trend. I'm like, do you think about the Roman Empire? And I was like,
Thinking
what?
about it right now.
I never think about the Roman Empire unless if I'm going to Italy. That would be the only time.
You probably still wouldn't think
No,
about
I
it.
still wouldn't think about it.
Like,
can we just Oakley.
Okay.
Did anyone call you into this video?
But
anyways.
So I haven't seen every military movie, but what the military movies I have seen, the basic training montage, it's usually a very quick part of the movie where it makes it look like it's a couple of days. So that could probably give the viewer an unrealistic idea of how short it seems. Now that I'm out of it, it seems short, and especially because I didn't have to go to AIT, but those 10 weeks are pretty long when you're in them. But I would say that the physical fitness is pretty, I don't want to say it's realistic because they're not obviously going to fact check the Army physical fitness standards. But we have like a fitness test that we do now that has a bunch of different things, whereas back in the day it might have just been push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups. And that might have been more of what they show in the obstacle courses in the movies. They didn't show a lot of land nav in any of the movies I've seen. No one's ever picking points on a map and saying, let's go here, unless it's in the context of an actual war. So the physical fitness is big. The rifle marksmanship is big in the movies. But overall, it's hard to relate any movie. They're never going to dive into the details that you're going to be trained on in real basic training. But if you are one of those people that's like a self-visualizer where you see yourself in third person, like almost out of body, then yeah, it's, you know, there's going to be the rifle marksmanship where you're on the range and you're shooting a target, or you're running in the rain, or, you know, doing lunges with kettlebells maybe. But it's, you know, it's basic Army training. So it's the things that you would expect the military to do is what they're training us in. They're training us how to, you know, go out and camp in the wilderness for 3 nights and 4 days and deal with rain and dig foxholes and stuff like that. We do that like 3 times throughout the cycle. And then we exercise every day except Sunday. Usually there's a break there unless you mess up, and then you have what's called corrective training. You get done with, you know, church or assembly or whatever, or and then the second half of the day you're probably cleaning or doing some type of task. And if you like I said earlier, the customs and courtesies, if you don't go to parade rest when you're talking to a drill sergeant, the whole platoon might have to do push-ups or something, so
Yeah.
but and the drill sergeants,
How mean are they?
it depends. It's drill sergeant to drill sergeant. I had some that were more, none of them were nice. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like trying to be your friend, like your coach buddy. I think for some people, if they haven't been around strict teachers, drill sergeant would be a huge shock to them. But I also think some of our easiest going drill sergeants were just like strict teachers. And then we had some that were just like, you're breathing way too fast right now, and I want you to do push-ups. So,
Tell them the funny stories. Like they all had nicknames. They'd call you things. Jack had a nickname. I mentioned it. They called him Beethoven. I actually talked to that drill sergeant. When we signed him out, I was like, which one of you guys called him Beethoven? Mm-hmm. I mustered up and
yeah. Drill Sergeant Cartwright called me Beethoven because he found out that I was going to be in the band, which kind of makes sense. The name never stuck, but it was, for one day, it was his nickname for me. And then after that, he never actually called me that.
But they were joking around with you. Like towards the end, they were like, all right, Bounds, go have fun playing that triangle.
Yeah, our senior drill sergeant was like, he shook my hand whenever we got our beret and our soldier patch. And he was like, yeah, go play that triangle.
Which is not what he's playing.
But these are all, like, I personally am a big military history fan. I like to read up on it. My family has a lot of history that I like to geek out about too. So whenever you have these drill sergeants that are infantry veterans who have deployed and all that, it's almost like, yeah, they have a high standard. Yes, they're teaching us a bunch of stuff that I might not use in my personal MOS, but it's like, man, if I'm gonna learn how to be a soldier, I'm glad it's with guys who have seen that stuff overseas and have been in those mm-hmm. fights. So I really appreciated them. But yes, some of the drill sergeants were mean and or maybe like stern, and you were like, I get it. And then some of them were just jerks, and you were like, but why? So if you're going to basic training, you're never gonna be like, I understand, the drill sergeants are just doing their job. That's how you should go in with that mentality. It's like, it is their job to teach you to be resilient emotionally and mentally and physically, and make it through anything and see the mission through to its completion. But also there's always gonna be a few that succeed in crossing your wires and pushing that button that you didn't think you had. So it's you always think, I'm gonna be flexible. Like, as as a 29-year-old, I was like, I've got work experience. Like, I'm used to people being jerks, whatever. But the drill sergeants are good and they're very well trained. So they will find out what your buttons are and push them sometimes. But all that to say, their goal is to make you stronger. So
what would you say the hardest part of basic training was? Not talking to me. That was the hardest part of it.
Yeah. I got to talk to Jen a lot, and it gets some hate because I did get a lot of phone time. Some people don't. It just depends where you're at and what battalion you're in.
A lot, as in he got his phone at the most twice a week, but that was not always promised.
It's really once a week for an hour and a half on Sunday, which again is a ton relative to
other people.
To other people, other Army basic training, other branches of the military. All that to say, like, thank you for your service. I don't care. We got the phone time we got. It wasn't something I decided. The hardest part at first was just reception. Right when you get there, you're not in your actual battalion that you're going through basic training with. You're in the paperwork battalion. You get fed every day, which is nice, but it's just to give you the energy to go stand in line for more stuff, like getting your ID or filling out your financial stuff or your medical stuff, all things that are important, but you see them again as soon as you get to your duty station. And the drill sergeants there are probably more button pressers than the ones in your actual battalion, verbally at least. And other than that, I'm trying to think of the hardest part. I would say day one was definitely the hardest part. After that, it's kind of downhill.
Well, you said talking at like that initial phone call, and if you guys have been following us, I had chatted about that initial phone call. He called his dad, not me or his mom, but it's that iconic. You get to basic training. This is after the reception, and you call your loved one, and you have whatever amount of time to read this script essentially and say, "I made it to basic training. I'm safe. Love you." Well, I don't even, can you even say love you bye? It's just so like, it's on a paper, so you have to read the paper. And I told Jack, I'm like, don't call me.
It's
Don't
super
tell me
not personal, the script they give you. It says, like, for me, it was like, "Hello, sir, this is," even though I was a specialist, but it was like, "Hello, sir, this is Specialist Bounds. I'm calling you to let you know that I've made it safely to Army Basic Training. I'm with the 360th Battalion, Alpha Company, 2nd Platoon. I don't remember. I had to like send pictures how you could reach me and stuff. But had I had to call her or mom, I think I would have held it together better because I would have felt obliged to do so in that situation because it kind of would have been expected of me. But when I called dad, he's kind of the guy I call for when everything's going wrong. And I did not hold it together because I had a phone call at reception and I called everyone and I was like, "Oh, this isn't bad." So
we had one quick phone call and then.
But I guess I wasn't like expecting boot camp to. I mean, we got there and immediately had to run and haul stuff and then go into our barracks, basically our bay, and do corrective exercise. And then they said, "All right, take your phone out." And we did. And they're like, "You're going to turn it on and show us the screen." Like, they're very specifically, you got to show them that it's on and that you're not like, scrolling Instagram. I don't know. Filming whatever on Facebook Live. I don't know. And from there we had to call. We got one call. And it used to be you did it on like a payphone type deal, but obviously now like you do it on your personal cell phone. But I did that and I called dad and he answers and he's like his normal self. He's like, "How's it going, boyo?" And like when I heard him being his normal self, that's what got to me. Like, he wasn't like acting. I mean, I knew he knew what the call was, but he was keeping his composure, and that's kind of what made me lose mine. Is because I was like, if it sounded like home, and so
That's so sad.
I barely made it through.
I'm so glad you didn't call me for that.
I barely made it through the script, and I did. It's not in the script, but I did tell him I love him and said bye. And then, like, it's kind of reality kicks in because you're like, crap, like, I'm not gonna get my phone for an unforeseeable amount of time. And luckily, again, like, it was only a couple weeks before I got to call. But, it does feel like you're closing a door that you'll never reopen once you get past that phone call. But I would say that was the toughest day. It was a lot of corrective exercise. They're trying to shake you up. And they shake you up a lot before they let you call your folks.
I just remember even when you called me, it was that time I was on the airplane. Like, and I had also talked about this in the vlog, but you said, like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And it was early on, like week 1. Would you say now, looking back, like after the 10 weeks, this is still the hardest thing you've ever done?
I think it just had to do with the phase I was in because I've done hard things before physically and mentally, emotionally, but you always find these new bookmarks or these new checkpoints. So like maybe had I done basic training first and done drum and bugle corps second, I would have thought that, that was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But this coming at a different age, I was in a different mindset. There was just a lot of factors contributing to me saying that. So it was not just that like we were getting smoked, or the corrective exercise, the slang for that is getting smoked all the time. It was that, we had just gotten all these shots. One of them is like the flu shot, and like that made everyone sick, and then everyone was sick in the bay. You know, you're sitting there sniffing. It's like you've got a sinus infection that you can't really take medicine for, unless you get a sick call or something. And then, you know, you're obviously still doing all the corrective exercise. Your shoulders are sore from the shots. That was a tongue twister. And, you know, it's just a bunch of different factors. You're still learning how to take instruction from the drill sergeants, because a lot of times they'll give you a list. And for some of my coworkers that that are sequentialists, like they can, they do well with sequence, like they can think that list really well. I had to really work at that, just being, you know, so I was trying to write everything down. But yeah, at the time, it probably seemed like the hardest thing I'd ever done. I would say by week 2, I would have maybe not taken that back, but changed my mindset.
Yeah.
And then, you know, by week 10, I was like, I think I've got this. Like, I was like, this, it was meaningful and there was rigor to it. But I think whenever I said that, I was probably reflecting on what I thought the next 10 weeks were going to be without actually having experienced them. So at the beginning, if you go to basic training or if you're thinking about it, just know that they're going to find a way to push your buttons. They're going to get you flustered, and then they're going to make you call someone that, you know, you care about a lot, that's going to make you miss home. And, you know, they're trying to get you in that state to make you more resilient. I would say it's a very strategic part of the curriculum. And then after that, you know, the faster you can improve, the faster it stops feeling like that.
Yeah.
So that was my goal, was to try to improve extremely fast to where I didn't feel like I was new to this.
Well, clearly you did, because he had some awards. I've talked about it a little bit on this channel, but you were the platoon guide, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the platoon guide.
The
PG. I always confuse it with platoon leader, platoon guide. It's like kind of same thing, but the official term, platoon guide.
Platoon guide is the title, and platoon leader would be how I would define it.
So yeah. And then he also won Soldier of the Cycle. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess the band kid did level up to the playing field here. So talk about that a little bit, because a couple of people have asked just about like how you got awarded that, and just like how that all came about for you.
I would say being PG, platoon guide, is a little bit more subjective to what platoon you're in and what company you're in. Usually if you're a platoon guide, you're not the platoon guide for the entire cycle. They get fired all the time, and it's not necessarily personal. It's just that they're trying to give everybody a chance in that position to give them some leadership experience. For me, it was a little different. Our drill sergeants decided to put it up to a vote with the platoon, and I won that vote. And then our APG, Carrera.
Assistant platoon guide.
Yeah, assistant platoon guide. Her name was Peyton Carrera. She was awesome, and she got a lot of votes, so she was APG. And we actually both ended up staying there for the entirety of the cycle, which again, very rare. First out of 4 platoons in our company, 2 first and second platoon kept theirs. I was in second platoon the whole cycle. So that being said, we got to grow as leaders, and there were definitely challenges that I've probably seen in the classroom before, but it was with people who were by definition students, and here we're all on the same playing field in a way. And, you know, you have to deal with things differently whenever age is not a factor and authority is not necessarily a factor. Soldier of the Cycle, I won that based on things that I had done throughout the cycle and a final interview, which was in the shape of something called boards. I was interviewing in front of a board of senior drill sergeants. So the head drill sergeant of each platoon was sitting on the panel, and they asked me questions about red, white, and blue phases, the 3 phases of the cycle, dealing with the things we talked about earlier, like rifle marksmanship, land navigation, physical fitness. And I think I was very well prepared. I knew how to study for these things, and I actually did really well on the written tests for these things. The biggest pressure was remembering all these after the test and having to do this in a boards. We actually found out the day before that this was happening, so very quickly. It was me and the APG from first platoon that got, she got Soldier Leader of the Cycle, I got Soldier of the Cycle. And basically we were 2 of 10 people in the entire battalion, which is 5 different companies, about 1,000 people that presented ourselves throughout the cycle as being above the standard. So to get that, I felt like some of it was the interview. Like I felt like I did well in the interview, but I think a lot of it too was really pushing myself physically in the PT. Even on times where maybe I was hurt, maybe not injured, but hurt. And, there was definitely fatigue that I had to overcome. And I think that while, yes, I was trying not to stick out negatively, I was also trying to beat some personal goals, especially in PT and especially in the ACFT, which is the Army Combat Fitness Test. And I was trying to really keep up with the youngest and the most spry. And like I said earlier, like there's, athletes from places like Kansas City and Alabama that, they're trying to keep up with their athletic North Stars. So I was just like, man, if I can even keep up with you for a second, I'm doing good. So I was always trying to do that, and also trying to push people. And just when it came down to leadership responsibilities, accepting those responsibilities and doing them well, regardless of if I was necessarily up for the duty or not. So that was, I think, some of the larger factors of why I was picked for Soldier of the Cycle.
If you had to do it all over again and go through basic training again, would you do it?
Knowing what I know now, I feel like it would be more fun, but I still feel like there would be some drill sergeants that find out how to push my buttons. I don't think I would do it again, and it's because I think about those drill sergeants, not all of them again, but just some of the ones that were especially, sometimes I would say narcissistic in their,
Oof, that's a big word.
It is, but
it's a word with some meaning there.
It was they were the main character in this thing. Some of them were very meaningful, and everything they did was done selflessly, even if it was I think there were some that really understood their duty as a drill sergeant was to make soldiers and to create selfless leaders. But some of them, I don't know I think they missed the day about. I think they missed the selflessness class. But no, short answer, I wouldn't do it again. But
are you happy you did it?
I would never. Yeah, I would never take it back. I told her before I went, I was like, this is something I need. This is something I want to help sharpen some good habits I have, and to teach me new habits, and just make me more consistent with lifestyle in general.
Mm-hmm. You know how they say that, I've always heard the phrase, when your soldier comes back from Army base, or I keep saying Army basic training, just basic training in general, they act completely, they're like a new person. I don't feel like you change that much, in terms of personality, who you are. I feel like you already had a lot of those core skills.
I would say I'm very different. I would say it's the other side of a coin. I'm a killing machine.
No, you know what I mean, though.
No.
I just don't, and maybe it's just because I know you so personally, but I don't think you act in any different. I always thought you were very formal,
I feel like basic training and AIT don't necessarily change you as much. I think and I met a lot of people that were characters, and I say that in a good way. They were truly themselves, especially when you get to know people. People start to let their walls down a little bit and be themselves around you. I don't think I changed. I don't think any of those people changed who they were as a character. I think they come back with better skills, and maybe for some people, basic training, especially if I was younger, I might have come back from basic training and been I've got to make my friend group more exclusive. Some of these people are not going to make it with me, whatever. They do tell you to surround yourself with people who are not going to make you look bad as a soldier, and I get that. But I think coming back at 29, again, I don't feel like I'm any different in that regard. I think I already surrounded myself with a great circle. I already have someone here who pushes me sometimes when I don't want to be pushed, and I think we do that for each other sometimes.
Yeah,
but
we're good at that. We're a good team.
But no, I think the more I think about it, basic training might change people, but I also think experiencing actual war probably changes people a lot more, because that's, you're dealing with actual traumatic stress, and that's kind of why I appreciate the the drill sergeants I had all seen action and been on several deployments, and it's like taking instruction from them. One, I felt like everything they were saying was extremely valid, but also just, you know, the appreciation I have, and not that they seek it. I would say they probably are even less seeking than, you know, others, but just the experiencing war is something I could never imagine, but it's something that I can deeply appreciate. So, you know, I don't think I changed in that regard for sure. Nothing was traumatic.
But I guess overall, this was a very long process to get to today in so many terms, more than one. And just like ending his job as a band director, to going to basic training, to starting here at West Point, and like he's still in that like learning process here. Like it hasn't been that long in retrospect. Again, a month and a half, but to be at this point today, to finally like be on the other side of it, like this is stuff we've been talking about for like the past 10 weeks, like the lights at the end of the tunnel. Like, how does it feel to be here now?
It feels great. I think for the two of us personally, it feels great because, you know, obviously I'm not having to do, we've done distance for most of our relationship, and it's just, that was even more extreme because I was further away and less reachable because of the, you know, not having my phone most of the time. But even going further back, like I told myself I told myself in my second year of being a band director out of fourth, and I was like, I've got like 3 more years max to do this. I know this isn't what I want to do. I think that was when I realized my ambitions are different than when I graduated with a music education degree originally. And then 2 years came around and I did an audition, and then my third year came around, I did another audition, and then I did one more audition that same year, and I finally won this position. And it was like everything was in place, timing was at the right time. But you know, that on top of, you know, creating this relationship that we have, on top of this huge move, it's
been a lot.
Had you told me 3 years ago that it was going to take all that, I might have felt a little discouraged. But honestly, I tried not to think about all of the unknown and the uncertainties. I just took it day by day, and now we're here. And you know, there's always going to be uncertainty with anything, but I think my job as I start to play in these formations and you know, performing these different performances, those uncertainties are getting less and less in terms of the music and my comfort being in, you know, again, playing with this honestly elite group. It's intimidating at first because they've all been at their jobs for a while and they're very good, and I'm like trying not to look like the new guy. So, but you know, day by day it gets easier. So.
And he got to play for the first time in the Hellcats uniform. I'm sad I had to miss it, but here's a picture of him in the official uniform. Love to see it. I am going to try to get out there for you guys as soon as, obviously I want to watch him play, but it's hard when I'm also working a full-time job. But one day it'll line up and it'll work out. We have 20 years, right? So, but as soon as that happens, obviously I'll vlog it and show y'all, but it's exciting. We're happy to be here.
It's a great job.
Yeah, very. Oh, my mom's calling me. Okay, sorry, my mom called. I had to ignore that for a second.
I don't do not disturb. She's been having notifications pop
For
up
this
sideways
whole
on her
time,
phone.
my
She hadn't had
Instagrams.
do not disturb on.
I'm awful at that. I never put the do not disturb on. Anyways, we're grateful to be here. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. I actually wrote them. I have some of them on my laptop. Let me double check. No, I think we hit it all.
Good.
I think
I got the grill on.
So. we're making hamburgers for dinner, and he turned on the grill. So I guess this is our cue. But if you guys have any other questions, any dire needs, anything specifically about the Hellcats, anything about just Army in general, Jack will answer as best as he can.
I'll do my best.
Okay, don't yawn in the camera, but
I will do my best.
Thank you guys for watching and enjoying this bonus vlog. I'm going to keep trying to do more bonus vlogs for y'all. And then if you are new to my channel, I post every Wednesday, so make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Did you enjoy doing that?
Yes.
Did you subscribe? Anyways, thanks so much for the support. We appreciate y'all who've been through this 10-week craziness with us. I know you guys have seen me through my ups and downs, and so it's kind of cool to get his perspective on it. I know it's been asked of, and so now we're delivering it. But we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.